Hey everybody, Mac here, and what I have today are these guys. I was in Walmart the other day. It was actually when I was picking up the Space Police guy for the Lego blind bag when I saw these, a 7-inch Predator and a 7-inch Xenomorph, and these are by Lanyard Toys. And Lanyard isn't one you typically associate with action figures, really. They came out with the Rampage series whenever the Rampage movie came out. They do have a series of something called Star Troopers. They also have some Nerf knockoff, I shouldn't say knockoff, but foam dart type shooters. And then I saw these, and there's 3 Xenomorphs and there's 3 Predators with these sets. All of them are sold only at Walmart. And there's differences between each figure, and we'll talk about those in a second. But this is the first time I can think that Lanyard has really stepped up into like this 7-inch figure line. And before we take a look at anything, something you need to know is that each of these figures, each of these 7-inch figures, were $10. So keep that in mind while we're looking at these, because $10 for a 7-inch figure, that's pretty much unheard of anymore at this point. First, let's take a look at these boxes, which I have to say, I love the comic book style artwork that's on the front of each of these boxes. Like this, especially with the Predator right here, this looks like something that could have come off of a Dark Horse comic, like during the AVP years in the mid to late 90s. Same thing with this Xenomorph over here. This is the Xenomorph Warrior, and this is what they call their City Hunter. For the Xenomorphs, there are 2 other figures here that we have, the Drone Xeno and the Runner Xeno. And the Runner Xeno is from Alien 3, when he and the Xenomorph pretty much infected a dog. The Drone, as you can see, it's all white, but he's very much like the Warrior Xenomorph, which is the one that I have, with a few exceptions that we'll talk about once we open up the figure. And up top here, they have an evolution scale from egg to facehugger to chest burster to runner or soldier / warrior, all the way up to the queen. And they do have a queen as well, a big red queen. Over here with the Predator, you see we have our City Hunter. It doesn't show any of the other Predators that you get. And there was one that was called the Jungle Hunter that I think he was the one that was in mid-cloak. They have one that's sort of like a smoky translucent, like half his body is solid and the other half is smoky translucent color, that he seems to be in mid-cloak. And then they have a third one that I can't remember what the name was, but he has a green body, different armor, very different helmet piece. But all of them come with 2 accessories, and it looks like you can mix and match the accessories, because I know the Hunter here comes with the disc and the spear, and the other ones came with different wrist blades, and each one came with another accessory. So you can pretty much mix and match to make your own Predator once you have all of these figures. Now, at $10 a pop at the shelf at Walmart, are these worth it? What's the articulation going to be like? What's the sculpt going to be like? What do we get out of it? Well, hang on, let me open these up, and we will take a look at both of these. We will be opening up and taking a look at the Lanyard Hunter Series Predator and the Xenomorph. Alright friends, here they are, right on your screen, Aliens versus Predator. And I almost forgot, before we go any further, go to my Twitter, find that photo of Storm Shadow, and enter for your chance to win a Amazon exclusive G.I. Joe classified Storm Shadow. Now with that out of the way, let's get back to these guys. The first thing we're going to do is we're going to put the tape measure to them and see how they measure up. The box boasts 7 inches. Let's see what we get. Putting the tape measure to our Predator here, you can see to the top of his helmet, he is almost 7.5 inches tall. And then if we do the same to our Xenomorph buddy over here, to the top of his head, he is just at maybe a little shy of 7 inches. So they are at that 7-inch scale, which is good, because if you have a large collection of 6-inch scale figures that you wanted to match these up to, the Predator and the Alien are a little bit bigger than humans, so the scaling will actually be correct against a 6-inch figure. Now, having said that, before we get into this any further, there's two things to consider right now. One, no, these aren't going to match up to the NECA line of Aliens and Predator figures that are out right now. It's just not going to happen, not in the detail, not in the paint, not in the sculpt, definitely not in the articulation. But those are $30 to $40 figures. These are $10 figures, more affordable, that seem to be aimed more at kids because these are very heavy, very chunky, very sturdy, like they're meant to be bashed together in play. Now, having said that, I'm not entirely sure who these are geared towards, because my first question is, do kids even know who Aliens and Predator are anymore? I know there has been like the Prometheus and Covenant, but those didn't do very well. Those were still R-rated products. And then there was a couple of Predator movies that came out that didn't do very well. Like, are these guys even still relevant? However, don't get me wrong, if I was a kid, even if I didn't know who Aliens were, the franchise was, and I saw this on the shelf for $10, I'd be like, please, Mom, Dad, buy me that, just because he looks really cool. So I don't know if they're going based off of that, on just the cool factor of how they look, or if they really are just trying to sell these as Alien and Predator. Who knows? Either way, keep in mind, these are $10 figures, and we're going to take a look at them. First of all, let's take a look at the Alien, because the Alien was the one that I was the most excited about, and the reason I bought this guy is because with his blue sheen, he looks the most like the classic Xenomorph. He has a little bit of green highlighting in here, as you can see, and on top of his head. And let's get down to articulation. First of all, because of the sculpt, especially with his shoulders, he doesn't have a 360-degree head rotation. He can look side to side, and that's it. There's not any play at all in the head. As you saw before, his jaw does open and close. And if you look inside, I don't know if you can get a look in there. Let me see if I can focus in. If you can see inside there, he does have his secondary jaw on the inside of his mouth. However, and this, I believe, is a missed opportunity, it does not extend. It's in there and you can see it, but there's no way, there's no play feature, there's no switch or anything to extend it to come out of his open mouth. And I really feel like that was a missed opportunity. Shoulders, he has them. They're a little stiff. They'll go out to the sides. I don't know if you heard them clicking, but they are ratcheted. Full travel spin. Single jointed elbows, as you can see. Wrist swivel, no pivot. They're locked in this sort of open hand position. He has a really good, what he loses in head rotation, he makes up for in waist rotation. He has a really good ball joint at the waist. You can get some decent travel out of it. It's a little loose, and he's a little top heavy, so I can see that if you pose him for long periods of time, he may start to droop. But I really like the range of motion for this ball joint in here. Legs are on a bit of a ball joint. They'll go that far forward. Go back. Whoops. Pops off. Can't do the splits. That popped off. Snaps right back on. Can't do the splits. Single jointed knee. Little bit of ankle rock and pivot, but not much. But it does swivel from side to side. So as you can see, not the same amount of articulation that you might get from Hasbro or McFarlane even. Tail on back. I believe this was another missed opportunity, that this should be bendy. There should be a wire in it so you could pose the tail, but it will always go back. But it is pivoted so you can move it side to side if you want to. But I really feel like there should have been a wire in this instead of making it solid so you could bend it around. But having said that, the articulation in this guy is not bad for $10. The sculpt on this guy, I know I said he wasn't going to match up to the NECA figures, but the sculpt on this guy, especially in his torso, I think is really good. And I like how it has that shiny blue, but there's a black wash over it on the paint app. I definitely think the Alien is the better of the two that I have here. But I really like the sculpt. You really get that sense of that biomechanical alien feeling from him. And his articulation lets you get some decent amount of poses out of him. Nothing that's going to be... He can't do the on all fours crawl very well, but he does look good, I feel. Especially if you're just going to put him on a shelf. I think he looks really good. So let's stand him back there. And he does come with one accessory, and that is this. And this is awesome. This, the first time we saw something like this in live action, I believe, was for the first promo shot of the Aliens vs. Predator movie, way, way back in the late 90s, where they had this cylinder with a face hugger in it, and there was a Predator standing right there with his hand up against the glass, like they were getting ready to release these into the wild for the hunt. And yes, it pops open, and you can take your face hugger out. There is absolutely no articulation in the face hugger. It is just this. It's molded like this. It stays like this. These don't close, and the tail, you can unwind it, but it will always snap back. But even on the inside of the face hugger, there's some decent amount of sculpt going on with that. I really like the face hugger. I really like the alien. I really think these look great. Oh, wrong way. You can put him back in and seal him back up. And that's the only accessory that the alien comes with. But really, what's anything else going to come? The drone, the white one that I was talking about, the drone actually comes with an egg and another face hugger that pops up out of the egg. The drone also, as you saw in the back of the box, is all white, and a couple of things that are different is his cranial ridges right here are gone. The dome of his skull piece is completely smooth, and these don't exist on his arms. He has a little spine that comes out at the elbow right there, so it's basically like that, but this doesn't exist. And I'll probably get the drone eventually. Like I said, they're only $10. I just wanted to get these two to see how they were. And that brings us to our Predator. Now, the first thing I'm going to tell you about the Predator that was really disappointing, the mask does not come off. Even if you look at it and you can see his head underneath the mask and it looks like it might be a different piece under there, this is all one piece. The head does not, or the mask does not come off the face. I was really, really hoping it would. Because it would have been cool even to mix and match masks as well as accessories. But that's neither here nor there. So let's take a look at his articulation. He has head movement as well. He probably would be able to do a 3 full 60, except his armor and his shoulder cannon right here, which is not detachable, gets in the way. Shoulders, one goes up higher than the other. Once again, the armor piece here gets in the way. Does a full 360 rotation. Swivels at the elbow, as well as having a single jointed elbow, swivel at the wrist, no pivot. He also has a ball joint at the waist. Leg goes forward, leg goes back. Single jointed knee, no thigh swivel, no boot cut. The ankles do swivel. Little bit of back and forth play in them. All right. Now, let's get this guy. His shoulder cannon does swivel as well. And it can even move up and down a little. Blades are always out. They do not detach. They cannot retract. So the blades are always out on this guy. Paint-wise, it's not horrible. It's kind of dull. It's kind of bland, and you can see where they molded certain pieces in the flesh color, like right here on his thigh, and then just painted over it on the one side with the gray paint for the armor. Whoops. Focus. See that? Yeah. See how they painted? Everything was just molded in the same color, and then they painted over this. And this over here is supposed to hold his disc, which we'll take a look at in a second. And I feel like this should have been painted silver too, so it looked like part of the armor instead of just this weird growth on his thigh. He's not horrible. He's not horrible, especially not for $10. He is definitely a very solid figure. There's definitely some weight to him. And I feel like if I had a couple of these and I bashed them together, it would take a lot of abuse before it broke. Now for accessories, he comes with two. He comes with this, which is his smart disc, which we saw in Predator 2. And I'm actually really impressed that this piece does fit in his hand, because of the way that his hands are sculpted, I didn't think that the finger grips would actually work on this guy, but you can fit this disc into his hand, and he actually looks really good holding it. For storage, that's what this little spot is for. You pop this on the side, and he can keep that on there. See what I mean? How that should have been painted gray because it's part of his armor and not part of his leg. And then the other one that we got is this. This is the spear that, once again, we saw in Predator 2. I think it was Concrete Jungle was the subtitle. And this is one piece. It doesn't collapse. It's always open. But this is also a really cool accessory too. It fits very well into his hands, and you can get a lot of posing out of him with this spear. And like I said, with the other two Predators that you get more accessories, you get more weapons, so you can mix and match or just basically load up one Predator and make him like your Super Predator. So that's what we got. The Lanyard, Alien, and Predator 7-inch figures, $10 each. Tell me what you think. I think for $10, they're worth it. I like them. I like having them. I like having them as an addition to my collection. I think they pose up real well with some of your 6-inch figures. And I think you can have a lot of fun with these guys. They're not going to match up to, like I said, the NECA figures, but not every figure needs to be a NECA figure. Sometimes you just want a $10 figure to fill out your collection. You don't want to spend $30 or $40 on a high-end designer figure, which is really what was holding me back from collecting them, because I like aliens a lot. Like, a lot. But I didn't want to spend what they wanted on something like a Xenomorph. However, with these Lanyard figures, I could see picking up a couple of these Xenomorph Warriors here, some drones, definitely the Queen, maybe a few runners, and army building my Xenomorph army. The Predators, I'll definitely get at least the other two Predators to go along with this, just so that I have all three of them. But I like them. I think they're worth it. Like I said, I don't really know who these were aimed at, but they definitely got their hooks into me. So, let me know in the comments below what you think, because I'm actually very curious to hear what people have to think of this, what people think about Lanyard entering the action figure market. Personally, I think it's great. I think Hasbro and Mattel, and I'm not dogging on Hasbro and Mattel, don't get me wrong, but I think Hasbro and Mattel have had a monopoly on consumer collector action figures, 6-inch figures, for way too long. And I feel like with a lot of these other companies coming out of the woodwork, like Lanyard here, McFarlane Toys, and a bunch of other ones, Jazzwares, Jada, all those other ones that are starting to come in on the scene, competition is good, and I feel like there may be a revitalization into the action figure market because of it. So let me know what you think down below, and until next time everyone, play well, stay safe, stay healthy, and as always, thank you for watching.